There's some things that I'll never forget, and I just will never forget the look on his face that he gave me while he pointed the gun directly at me. That's something that I will never forget. It's changed me. It's changed my life.
That's first grade teacher Abigail Zwerner, and the shooter that she is referencing in that interview was one of her 6-year-old students. That's right, a 6-year-old student opened fire at Richneck Elementary School in Virginia and attempted to essentially kill this teacher. Now, luckily she survived, as you can see from the interview. She was shot through her hand, and basically the bullet hit her chest, and she suffered from a collapsed lung as a result, but she is recovering. The big story now, though, is that she has filed a lawsuit against the school administrators, the school board, and other officials within the school district. She says that she had warned administrators and officials about how violent the student was, and her concerns allegedly went ignored. So the lawsuit alleges that concerned teachers and school employees warned assistant principal Ebony Parker 3 different times on January 6th that the first grade student had a gun on him at school. Zwerner claims she also told assistant principal Parker in the hours before the shooting that the boy had threatened to beat up a kindergartner and was in a violent mood. There are more accusations in this lawsuit. Before I get to those details, I just want to open it up to you, Francesca. Keep in mind that the 6-year-old is too young to be prosecuted, which I think makes sense. And so the teacher here is looking for justice, and I think this lawsuit is an interesting way to get it.
It's such a bigger story, right? Because it goes to the heart of why we need basic gun control in this country. But let's start with what she said, which was the look on his face. And now maybe there's clarification, but I can only imagine that look was not a look of like, what am I doing? Oopsies, but it was, I'm mad, I'm a 6-year-old, I'm throwing a tantrum, and I wanna hurt you. And that is terrifying, like on some like Chucky level, child pointing gun at you. Like that's what that sounded like, that it was bone chilling. The problem is so many Republicans, instead of course, because they can't talk about gun control because the NRA gives them too much money. So they have to be like, well, that child was, it's a demon. Demon child, and we should lower the age to be held legally liable for something like that. Like that truly is their answer. It's like, anti-choice, have your baby. But if you get a bad one, I don't know, put it in jail.
Well, the other statement that you might get from some Republicans is that, well, I mean, these schools would be much safer if you just armed the teachers. So think about what that would mean. That would mean that in this particular case, a first grade teacher would have to shoot a 6-year-old who is posing a threat to her life and the lives of others. I would say maybe we need to rethink some of the policies that allowed for the situation to get to the point that it got in. That's just my thought on it.
Maybe you don't get to claim moral high ground ever again if that's your stance and that's your argument. Are you kidding me?
I know, it's crazy. I mean, I can't even imagine, like the amount of stress teachers are already dealing with, especially with the fact that they have historically been underpaid, underappreciated. They're also dealing with ridiculous accusations of grooming children from the right wing as we speak, but that same right wing wants to arm those teachers to then do what? In this case, in this very specific case, shoot and possibly kill a 6-year-old kid. Now look, I think this lawsuit is also really interesting because it implies that there were warning signs that administrators and school officials decided to ignore or neglect. And it's a lawsuit, it has to go through court, and we'll figure out what there needs to be evidence presented. Right now, these are just accusations, but I think the accusations, if proven true, are pretty damning. The suit also alleges, upon hearing that information, Assistant Principal Parker had no response, refusing to even look up at plaintiff when she expressed her concerns. The suit also alleges that the assistant principal also repeatedly failed to act on warnings the boy had a weapon that day of the shooting. So apparently Zwerner, the first grade teacher who got shot, claims the boy had a history of random violence and had strangled a teacher in kindergarten. 2 days before the shooting, the lawsuit alleges the boy smashed Zwerner's phone and called her and others an inappropriate name. On the day of the shooting, during recess on January 6th, Zwerner had informed another teacher that she suspected that the 6-year-old had a weapon after seeing him remove something from his backpack. Now, the other teacher decides to search the boy's backpack, but did not find a weapon, according to the lawsuit. Now, the other teacher did decide to relay that information to Parker. Again, that is the assistant principal, telling her that the boy may have put the gun in his pocket before the search and taken it outside for recess. Parker replied the boy had small pockets, insinuating that he couldn't possibly have a gun on him, according to the lawsuit. But guess what? He had a gun on him because that was the same gun he used to open fire within a first grade classroom, shooting this first grade teacher. So I don't know if this is proven to be true. I don't know why it would be so difficult to just check and see. Like, why would the teachers make this up? Obviously they're concerned. How about we cover all our bases, especially knowing that the student has a history of violence within this campus?
You know what's so sick about this story, and forget, like, my mind goes to like who's going to be paying out this lawsuit. You know, is it just the principal, the assistant principal, people who might have known?
The taxpayers,
you know, like
$40 million.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. That should be going to helping this school, to getting mental health workers to work a case with this kid, to help him, to take him out, whatever it is. But you see the ways in Florida, and I believe in Texas and other states, and we've covered this before, the ways that because of teachers leaving the profession for a million reasons that you listed earlier, that they're going now to veterans and former police officers to stand in for teachers. Again, further militarizing our schools.
Yep.
And yeah, leading to what? Crossfire, more violence. Oh, how is a former cop? And look, this is not a statement on all former cops, but what do you think their approach is going to be with a kid who is violent? Probably violence. Do we think that that's what that kid needs? No.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of there is a very serious teacher shortage all across the nation, and the idea of filling the gap with veterans who might be suffering from PTSD or from former cops who have certain training that is not conducive to a safe learning environment. It's just a terrible, terrible idea. In reality, there needs to be a real discussion about what to do to support these teachers, and more importantly, provide services for kids who might be going, I mean, this is a 6-year-old, okay? I don't believe that people are born evil. Obviously, the 6-year-old is experiencing something and needs help. At the same time, when the educators and other students are going to the administrators to warn about this student having a gun, the administrators should probably take it seriously, because it wasn't just the educators in this case. After recess, a student told a teacher that the 6-year-old had shown him a gun while they were on the playground, threatening to shoot him if he told anyone, according to the lawsuit. That teacher relayed the information to the assistant principal through an intermediary, the suit alleges. A guidance counselor also warned the assistant principal about the boy possibly having a weapon. About 45 minutes before the shooting, the counselor asked to search the boy, but was rebuffed by the assistant principal, Parker. And then final thing that I want to say is the mother should be investigated, the 6-year-old's mother, okay? Look, if all of this that's been, all of these accusations against the assistant principal and other officials are proven true, yes, they should be held accountable. But also, let's talk about the mom for a second, because how did the 6-year-old obtain the weapon in the first place? Well, the mom claims that she kept the gun secure, very secure, with a trigger lock on the top shelf of a closet. On the top shelf of a closet, Francesca. That is what the mom is saying. So this isn't, oh, maybe we're gonna speculate that the parent isn't keeping the gun safe. No, she is admitting that she keeps it on the top shelf of a closet, as if the 6-year-old can't put a chair right where the shelf is and try to get up there and obtain the weapon. And so since the boy is not going to be prosecuted, and I don't think he should be prosecuted under Virginia law, maybe there needs to be an investigation into the mother, and maybe there should be potential prosecution into how she has unsafely stored the weapon, which was then used by her 6-year-old to shoot a first grade teacher.
I mean, I agree with that. I just think, I totally agree. I think there's a little bit of a slippery slope into what I feel like is yet again this excuse to not have basic gun control, because the other part of gun control is, in my opinion, you can have a weapon, you just can't have it at your house. Like, and I know Second Amendment, freaks are gonna like go crazy on me, but it's like, what if you had it safely stored in like a community facility, right? It's around the corner.
No, I disagree with that.
This is my.
I am not a Second Amendment nut. I do think law-abiding citizens should be able to have a weapon in their home, but there should be regulations.
But who's checking it? But who's like who?
Well, I mean,
you want people
in
coming door to
cases
door?
like this,
No.
I mean, I think it's a gun control policy to pass legislation that ensures that you're keeping your gun safe and away from children if you have children in the house. In cases like this, if it's proven that the mom is not doing that, she should be prosecuted. That's how you enforce it.
I agree with that, but I feel like that's like too little too late. This is retroactive. I passed a California like gun safety, like, you have to pass like some sort of safety test, right? When you want to buy a gun here. I just did it to see if I could do it and didn't study it all, of course. And it's like, where do you put gun? Do you put it in the fruit basket? Do you put it, like in the crib? And it's like, no, you put it in a drawer and you lock it. And I answered that because obviously I can put, my synapses are firing sort of. Any idiot can pass it, but who's actually storing their gun safely? I hear what you're saying, Anna, but we have prosecuted parents in the past. It hasn't led to anything, and kids are still gonna get it. And usually they kill themselves or their parents.
But what would the point of having a gun in a community center be if you're purchasing the gun specifically as a form of self-defense should someone break into your home?
So that's a good point. My opinion on that is around like hunting. If you're like, I do this for sport, I like it for hunting, etc. If you want to argue that it's for personal safety, there could be like, specific lock boxes, right? That you get with your gun. Maybe it's funded. Hey, it's taxpayer funded. Sure, I do not like that idea, but why not? Taxpayer funded. It's like a newfangled lock box. It can only be, open with your fingerprint, whatever. Give that with the gun. That should be included. We're also not gonna do that because it sounds expensive as hell, and guns are cheap, and paying people off is even cheaper. Buying politicians is cheaper.
Well, I wanted to end on one final note, because is the school district putting up any type of defense? Are they looking to settle? They're not looking to settle. They plan on fighting this lawsuit, and they apparently do have a defense. Here's the lawyer representing the first grade teacher, Zwerner, explaining what the defense is.
What's the defense?
Well, they're going to try to argue that this was a workers' comp, that a person can't sue their own employer in Virginia. But Virginia has very special laws and very interesting Supreme Court cases, and this is an exception. No 6-year-old student is really going to be a risk of shooting a teacher. It's not a part of their job. It's not a night 7-Eleven worker. And so I think the workers' comp defense will fail.
I mean, that is an insane defense. And also by putting up that defense, it seems to be an admission of guilt here. I don't know, am I reading it correctly, Francesca? What do you think?
Workers just like, what is Paul in its trust? She was shot in the workplace. I don't, it's all, they're gonna defend it, of course. They're gonna say whatever they need to say. But I think you're right, ultimately, that if this bears out and she can get some kind of compensation, or if she wins this, it should be a lesson to schools also to push back on the narrative that they need to be more militarized and more armed, right? And I think their students, as we've seen in just this last week in Tennessee, students are fired up and they're mad about how much they are being put at risk and their own lives are being played with.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.